All right. Hello, everyone. This is the Fire Social Worker Show. I just wanted to jump in and say hello to everyone out there. Just got done with the previous stream for Military Broadcast Radio. And now I'm putting on my social worker hat, and we're going to talk to a fellow social worker. We'll go ahead and bring her on. And her name is Constance McDonald. So, Constance, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Joey?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So we kind of been trying to coordinate this for a little while, and with schedules, it's always a little challenging. But just wanted to thank you for coming on, and so just to give a little bit of background, you are a licensed clinical social worker with a private practice, and then you are also a certified financial social worker, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I discovered you on LinkedIn. I was just trying to. I'm also honestly I'm trying to learn about financial social work because I'm still new to the field, and I'm also still kind of new to social work. So I'm always trying to network and learn and grow and develop. So I just wanted to pick your brain and just ask you some questions. So I appreciate you jumping on and. Yeah, so let's have a little bit of a backstory. I always love to get an origin story. So, what got you into social work in the first place?
Oh, I'm gonna take you way back then. I
That's
was
okay.
I was a senior in high school, 2006. So now you know my age. And my town got hit by a tornado.
Oh.
Um, and it was I remember it being like the first week of March
Mm-hmm.
because it had snowed the week before. So it was just wacky weather. And the tornado caused a lot of damage, and we were out of power for a whole week and out of school for a whole week. And I just remember the community just really coming together. And one of the things that we had to do was because our power went out, we had to throw out all of our food out of our
Mm-hmm.
refrigerator.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I ever went to a soup kitchen.
Mm.
And I was able to kind of just really see how the community came together and helped people and started asking more questions about um, what these people do, what their titles are,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I met a community social worker. Yeah, and so then I started to ask questions with my school counselor, just curious about like all the different types of helping fields. I knew from then I knew I was like I really want to make a difference. I want to really help people,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I was able to sit down and talk with a psychologist, a counselor, and a social worker. Um, and in college, I was a psychology major initially,
Mm-hmm.
and I had my mind made up that I was going to do industrial psychology
Okay.
because I really like finances. I've always liked finances and business and
Mm-hmm.
um, the psychology behind business seemed appealing to me, and so I took the class.
Mm-hmm.
And I dropped that class, and I didn't drop that many classes in college, but I dropped that
Mm-hmm.
class. I found it really boring. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
sitting down talking to my counselor, and she said, "Why don't you consider social work?" Because I had told her that I wanted to like be out in the field to help people. Like I
Mm.
had learned more about the industrial psychology being more about research. And I was like,
Right.
I really want to work with people. So she said, take a
Mm-hmm.
few classes in social work, and I fell in love with it.
So that was mid in your bachelor's. You switched into social work, or
Hmm.
okay, all right, cool.
Yeah,
And then from there you graduated with your bachelor's in social work. All
yeah.
right, and then you decided you wanted. When did you decide you wanted to get your master's?
Pretty much my junior year, I think. I was still an undergrad.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I started to learn more about like the different types of social workers, and I was really interested in schools. So in my state, at the time where I was studying in Illinois, you had to have your um,
Mm,
master's in social work to practice in the schools.
okay. So you went did you do the advanced standing and went right into your master's program, or did you
Mhm.
do the traditional path? Okay.
Yeah, I did advanced standing, but um, the school social work specialty, it didn't really matter if you were advanced standing or not. It was still going to be 2 years because they wanted you
Okay.
to do a full full academic year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then you did your master's program. Did you go right into the field, or did you well, I guess you had to go into the field a little bit before you get your LCSW, but what was your first job out of grad school?
A school social worker.
Oh, schools. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
What level of school were you? High
My intern
school?
my internship was in middle, and
Okay.
then I got a role in elementary and fell in love with it. Really like
Mm,
working with the little.
yeah. Okay. So you're working in a school setting. Can you give a kind of a day in the life of what it was like to be as a master social worker at an elementary school?
Uh, can't give you a typical day because no day is typical.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I what was consistent was that I had a caseload of students who had individualized educational plans. Um, so they were part of the special education program
Mm-hmm.
and the 504 accommodation program.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with those students who had social emotional need, and we coordinated with the team and worked on a specific goal around their social emotional needs. And I would see
Mm-hmm.
them depending on their needs. Some kids I saw every day. Some kids I saw once a week. Some kids I saw like twice a week. So it's just based off of their needs. Consulted with teachers and gave them behavioral health support
Mm.
and tips. Did interventions with for students who had needed additional support behaviorally. Ran groups. So yeah,
Never a dull moment, it sounds like,
no,
right?
no, no.
So did you immediately start working on your LCSW right when you first started? Okay. And
Yeah, yeah.
how long did it take for you to get that?
2.5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I was very lucky to have my supervisor, who also was a clinical social worker, and she had worked in the schools, um, helped supervise me, and um, did that.
Mm-hmm. So how long did you work in the school? Are you still in the school system or
Not anymore.
okay.
So I've done a mix.
Mm-hmm.
So started in schools, and then my husband had a job opportunity out of state and moved for that opportunity. And at that point, I honestly was a little burned out from school, so I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
work in a different field. And by that time, I had my clinical license, so that definitely
Nice.
opened the door for me to work in a variety of different settings. So then I couldn't run away from the action. I went to the hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
worked in the hospital, worked in the ER,
Yep.
worked in behavioral health unit, and I learned a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I learned a lot, you know, in that role. Um, so I did that, and then I ended up going back to school after I had
Oh,
my
okay.
daughter for a little
Wow.
bit. Yeah.
What were you
And,
going to school for at the second go round?
oh, I mean, I went back to the school setting.
Oh, the school setting. Okay, I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
And while I
So,
was doing that, I my one of my close friends started her own um, mental health organization and clinic,
mm-hmm.
and so I started doing that on the side. So that's when
Okay.
I started dipping more into the telehealth side of
Mm,
um, therapy. So
yeah. So it was kind of a slow progression, and it sounds like from what I've talked to a lot of different social workers is that every career trajectory is very different, and like it is kind of rocky sometimes, or you start with one vision or one goal, and then you end up in a completely different direction.
yeah,
Um, but that's the beauty. I think the beauty of social work to me is that you can go into different directions, and like I originally wanted to work at the VA. That was like I had tunnel vision on, I'm going to work at the VA. I got my internship there. I didn't really have a backup plan, to be honest. I was like, I'm going to work at the VA, and did my internship. And then sure enough, there wasn't an open position that lined
Um,
up at the end of my internship. So I was kind of like, well, now what do I do? And then sure enough, hospital social work kind of came to the rescue. And
okay.
so I've been doing that for a while. And yeah, and then I got curious about, well, a little bit of backstory about me is that I've always been interested in personal finance and just all that stuff. So I'm just nerdy about that. But when I found out about the Center for Financial Social Work, I was immediately like, this is awesome. I have to know this. I have to do this. And so I kind of went down that rabbit hole of certified financial social work. So I am curious to kind of see where did you fall into that, and how did you get interested into the or get your certification?
Yeah. So I like you, I've always been interested in personal finance and business, entrepreneurship. Um, and so while I was gaining the experience that I shared with you before, I was still like helping my loved ones with like their
Mm,
budget and
mm,
giving them tips on how to better manage their personal finances and listening to personal finance podcasts for
yeah.
fun. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone knew that I was like a finance nerd.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So during the COVID lockdown, my sister-in-law actually found the Center of Financial Social Work, and she sent me the link. She was like, "I think you would really like this
Mm-hmm.
certification." So I went and started the certification during lockdown, um, and got certified by 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been certified for a couple of years now. Have you been able to use it, like maybe in your private practice, or are you doing any type of specific financial counseling in your practice, or how are you actually implementing it in today?
I'm implementing it in a variety of ways in my private practice. I offer financial coaching to individuals, and I also offer a financial coaching group. I actually have one coming up in September, on
Okay.
September 11th, that I'm opening up to the community. Um, and then in my psychotherapy uh, part of my practice, um, I help clients whose main stress is related to finances.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I also do psych evaluations for people who are going through immigration court. And I've done a few evaluations around financial hardship being one of the
Hmm.
reasons.
Okay. Well, that's a very broad variety of use cases that you've managed to implement it. So that's really cool. Because like part of me, like I'm kind of like still new to the financial social work realm, and I've been looking at different things, like you said, like trying group practices or a private practice or coaching, and you know, so far I'm still working on the building the infrastructure of kind of doing that. But like you, I've been the unofficial finance person that people would want to either ask for advice, or then I would give unsolicited advice sometimes. But but I would try. I learned that when it comes to finances, you got to tread cautiously, especially
Yeah,
if because it is so personal, and because there is that stigma. um, a lot of times, even when people are in dire straits financially, they don't want to talk about it, or they don't want to actually do the work. And like it's like, I mean, just like with regular therapy, sometimes people are there either begrudgingly, or almost like they're like being told to be there,
yeah,
or their spouse is forcing them to come. So but yeah, I think when you do meet the right person in the right place, then it could be really transformational. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm hoping to find those people who are, they know they need the help, but they're also willing to do the work. Because
yeah,
you know as you've probably seen, and I've come across it too, that you can give people the full roadmap, the game plan, everything, all the steps that they need to do. But the behavioral side of the psychological side of personal finance is just really difficult for some people to overcome.
Yeah, yeah.
Found some good strategies or techniques that you've found in your practice that is helpful with kind of breaking down some of those barriers?
Yeah, I think like you said, talking about finances is taboo in
Yeah.
a lot of cultures, and
Mm-hmm.
and one thing that I've realized is that knowing that it's a difficult conversation to have with clients, I'd like to learn more about their story first
Mm-hmm.
around how and what they thought about money, like in
Mm-hmm.
childhood. So starting in childhood, um, and kind of getting their perspective on what money meant to them growing up, and attitudes and values that not only they may have been taught like within their household, but even society.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and having that conversation first before we jump into, hey, let's do a budget. Because
Yeah.
I think people need to, like you said, you have to have buy-in, you have to have engagement, and um, people like talking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They like to have a space where they can express their experiences. Um, and so I think starting there definitely helps with the motivation part of like
Mm-hmm.
doing the work. They know why they're doing the work. You know, we're having
Mm-hmm.
conversations of why it's important for you to make this change before
Mm-hmm.
we jump into that part.
Yeah. So I'm curious if have you had any light bulb moment, or have you helped a client have their light bulb moment and see that them kind of light up and realize, oh, this is what I've been doing wrong the whole time, or anything like that, or even maybe just a small light bulb moment. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you could share, or any experience that you've had with that?
So I also do lunch and learns for different organizations, and last fall I did a continuing ed or like lunch and learn for the National Association of Social Workers in North Carolina, where I'm based,
Nice.
and we talked about financial social work.
Mm-hmm.
And two things that that I found like really interesting was that out of the huge group that sat in on the presentation, like half of them hadn't even heard of financial social work. So they're very curious
Mm-hmm.
around it. And
Mm-hmm.
then two, we ended, and I thought it was going to have a lot more questions, but we had a very deep conversation around how finances and talking about finances is taboo in the social work field, and
Mm.
how we're kind of looked at as martyrs and we should just be happy with whatever we get. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we provide a value to society, and we should be compensated for it, just like other professions. And
Exactly. Yeah.
but yeah, we talked about like how this is taboo to ask for a raise
Mm.
or to negotiate your salary, to raise your rates, like the stigma
Mm.
that kind of comes around like doing all those things as a social worker. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I have talked to other social workers too. That yeah, like you mentioned the martyr kind of feeling of like, well, I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this, to make a difference, and that's really great and noble and everything. But we still have bills to pay. We have the same kind
yeah,
of student debt that other
yeah,
professions have, if not more so. So yeah, I think it is part of the conversation that we need to have collectively as a profession, to justify, that we deserve a fair wage, and we deserve, if anything, we deserve more than what we're collectively making.
yeah,
Because I'm in the job market now, looking at different opportunities, and I'm seeing master's level jobs that are paying 40, 50, 45,000 a year, and I'm just like, that's not
yeah,
right. It just doesn't seem right.
yeah.
So I'm
I grew
glad
up
that
in,
that other. other people are having that conversation. And I think, like with the interstate compact, maybe we can start talking about like just raising just generally how much social workers get paid.
Yeah,
I don't know how exactly that would look, but it's a step in the right direction, maybe.
yeah,
um, but yeah, even within the social work community, it does seem like there's a little bit of resistance or hesitance to ask for a raise, or even to turn down a job because they're not paying it as much
yeah,
as you feel like you deserve. So
yeah,
um, and I hope that that maybe even at the educational, like the college level, the CSWE level, can start incorporating, different different educational aspects to new social workers that says, okay, this is how you negotiate for a job. I mean, or
yeah,
for your salary, like things like that, that would
mhm,
be useful
yeah.
for, because I never had
Neither.
that kind of guidance, or even nowadays, a lot of social workers are more entrepreneurial, and they're trying
Yeah,
to start their own business. And, we don't get any exposure to, to,
mm,
how to start a business or how to do an LLC. I had to do, I'm basically doing all this myself, trying to, learn it as I go. Um, so that's why, I was really I'm hoping to, like, partner up with other social workers and really get to have the conversations and start getting it out there that, we do deserve our
yeah,
fair wage, and we
yeah,
deserve, we deserve to not, I would say, demand, like, but kindly request that we get a raise sometimes,
yeah,
and not feel ashamed or embarrassed about that. um
definitely. I
but
totally,
yeah.
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 Yeah, even in like some of I don't know if you're part of any like professional groups like on Facebook,
Hmm.
um, but there's been even conversations around just the huge discrepancy between a master's level social worker
Mm.
by state, how much they
Mm.
get paid.
Yeah.
Um, and I just find that so interesting because it's,
Hmm.
like we still provide a value and, we help people heal. And that is, that, I mean, we change people's lives. We help
Hmm.
them be better people
Yeah.
and advocate for themselves. And yeah, so I just
And I
hope
mean,
society sees
let's
more value in us.
right. I mean, let's be. And I was just thinking about this brainstorming the other day. But like, if let's say you gave across the board social workers, let's say a crazy number like six figures, which I feel like we deserve. Just
Yeah,
think about how much happier social workers would be. For one, we would be able to provide much better care because we're not worried about our own bills or our own
yeah,
financial
yeah,
stresses. And then, it'll also encourage people to want to join the social work field. Like, it would be they'd be like, hey, social work, we're helping people, but we're also getting paid.
yeah,
So that's it was one of those things where, like, I don't know how that would work or how that would look, but I think just as at our level, at my level, just basically asking for a fair wage, and then hopefully just kind of slowly increasing that salary, so it'll
yeah,
get higher and higher across the
yeah,
board. um, but yeah, so financial social work, that's obviously a passion for you. What are your do you have any future aspirations, or you do have a private practice? Is that in person, or is that online at this point?
it's online.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was gonna really quickly just show share your let's see. I wanted to highlight your page, and so you're based, you said, out of North Carolina, correct?
yeah. But I've moved
Okay.
a lot in my life, so
Hmm.
I'm licensed
Okay.
in a decent amount of states.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that ties back to the interstate compact, like,
yeah,
getting reciprocity, like you already have done that, but hopefully when that rolls out, we can all open up private practices online,
yeah,
and once again bring in some extra money, which we all would love to have.
yeah,
But
yeah. And it doesn't
so
have to be part of. I mean, we can have a whole nother episode about that, but I
on what's
did not
that?
receive reciprocity. I
Oh,
had to
you
start
didn't.
over from the beginning. Yeah.
Weird. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
aside from
Wow.
my test scores. Now those
Yeah.
transferred, but like sending the transcript
Oh,
and
wow.
filling out the
Yeah.
application and the
Mm-hmm.
background check, you have to do all that.
It
But
is a process. I did it from I originally licensed in Mississippi and moved to Tennessee. And then yeah, like it wasn't necessarily starting from scratch. That sounds like you're describing, but yeah, it was a lot of work, you know.
mhm,
So I definitely I'm glad that they're working on the
me
reciprocity, the
too.
interstate compact. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so this is wow, you do have a lot of client Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida, and Vermont. Wow, you really have traveled. So that's really cool that you can provide those services to all those different states. Are you currently taking clients at this point, or
Yeah, I
yeah?
am. I am taking
Okay.
clients in all three of my specialties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So, so you have been, yeah. So, wow, it's pretty impressive. So, serving finance. So as a coach, you can do that in all 50
Mhm.
states, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that I was curious about. If that I'd heard with coaching that yeah, you can do it in different states.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was a for sure in because I think one thing about financial social work is that a lot of people don't know about it
Yeah.
as much. So when people say, "Oh, you're a certified financial social worker," they don't really know what that entails.
Yeah.
So I think part of
Yeah.
the education piece and what I've been trying to also highlight other financial social workers in the field and they're out there doing the work, like this is what we do,
Mhm.
and if it's providing the coaching, private practice type of coaching, or you know uh, like basically what you're doing is you're providing that online, correct?
Yeah.
Like financial
Yeah.
coaching. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess maybe you can create your own financial coaching private practice and then take me under your wing, because apparently we have shared interests, and like I don't have the total level of experience that you have, but like I said, I'm trying to learn from other people, and just highlight what other social workers are doing out there in the world. And I love what you're doing. So
Thank you.
you actually provide a financial wellness checkup. So what does that look
Mhm.
like?
Yeah, I partner with Budget Simple, and
Okay.
I helped draft one of the self assessments on just uh, how educated people are with their finances
Mm,
and then their attitudes around their finances.
okay. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if I'd heard about that one before. I'm gonna have to mess around with that and learn more about that.
Yeah, yeah,
um that's cool. So what has been the most impactful, um I guess, do you have any success stories that you would like to maybe highlight, or um just something that makes you feel good when you think about, as a you don't have to give any details obviously of a
yeah.
client, but just in general, is there anything that you think fondly of whenever you think about people that you've helped?
I just love to see people's growth from
Mm,
when we first meet to the insights that they've gained, the skills that they learn, and they tell me about like applying outside of therapy. I always therapists
mm,
always like to hear that. Um, and advocacy, and um, sometimes my specialty of financial stress and life stressors intersect. I've
mm-hmm,
noticed that in a few of my clients, and so we've done some self-exploratory exercises to really help people make sure that their values align with their financial goals. Um, and sometimes some of my clients, um, the goal is more increasing like their self-esteem and like self-advocacy. Um,
mm.
and that definitely can apply to like finances. So
Yeah, yeah.
like helping them. like role play, like a conversation to have, when they feel like they need to ask for a raise or a promotion.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
um, also, encouraging them to, um, you know, keep track of, what they've done and
Mm.
reflect on that and use that as data to advocate for, what they need and what they want in relationships or even in career. I have a lot of
Mm.
conversations with clients about their career too.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I've had a client who was transitioning from two income to one income because of divorce.
Mm.
Another client um, who was making the most money they've ever made in their life and kind of dealing with imposter syndrome, like,
Mm.
oh man, like, do I really deserve this role? Do I deserve this money? Um, and uh, Clients that are transitioning from working full time to retirement and like
Oh, yeah.
making sure that their money moves align with what they really envision and what they value and want post
Mm.
retirement.
Mhm.
Giving them the space to kind of process that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like it really highlights to me the missing components of traditional financial planning, like CFPs, and nothing against the whole industry, like the financial industry, but there's a lot of there's a lot of the human element that's missing from like those financial planners and financial see all the different the 3 and 4 letter acronyms. And I feel like that's what really drew me to financial social work, is that it really highlights the human element of
Mhm.
finances, um because we're human, and finances are just one of those things that we just we're not usually we're not we don't have great role models usually
Yeah.
growing up. Society doesn't really help,
Mhm.
some of the expectations and the what we're programmed to want
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
And then like you get down into the nitty gritty of your everyday financial life, and a lot of times people are like, I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm not really sure. So I think
Yeah.
that's where I think financial social work could be really helpful to a lot of people. Um, just to kind of humanize and normalize finances,
Mhm.
and really,
Mhm.
like you said and earlier, destigmatize
Yeah.
finances, and really like just normalize, like, hey, you know, finances are not always fun, and it's
Yeah.
tough. And so, by having these tough conversations, it can really, just like that light bulb moment, or even just, that person that feels that imposter syndrome about getting a raise, and there's a dynamic there,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that can a lot of people can probably resonate with. um and I have heard that there are people, when they make a certain amount of money, they, more than they could ever imagine or more than they can ever spend, there's kind of a shame or an embarrassment almost, because they're like, well, my family doesn't have this kind of money, and so then you feel, a little bit of shame there, where you're like, well, do I deserve this money? So there's a lot there. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up.
Yeah. And
But
that's one thing I really like about like being a social worker just in general. Like we really look at the whole person.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
um, it's really important. Like if you're gonna advise somebody to make decisions with something that is already hard to have a conversation about,
Mhm.
which is money.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to have buy-in and to know like what is important to that person before you tell them what to do with their money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's also the difference between, a financial advisor, or like, they're kind of telling you what you should do with your money, whereas I feel like, we're trying to just help them, like, just guide them to, like, what do you want to do with your money? What feels right to you, instead
yeah,
of like saying, oh, you need to put this amount in this account, or like, okay, the nuts and bolts part of finances is one thing, but yeah, like, people want to have that buy-in, like you said, of like,
hmm
now I understand why I want to
hmm
save up aggressively for a retirement, or I don't want to save up aggressively for retirement. Like, and I think that's where the traditional financial world just misses a lot of that. So,
yeah,
um, So hopefully, and one thing that I've tried to do is really try to advocate my fellow social workers, like, hey, financial social work, we
Yeah,
need to be talking about these things because
yeah,
we are on the front lines a lot of times,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so I've been really pushing for
I think
all
it's
my social
awesome.
workers and on my network to at least look into it.
Yeah,
You don't have to get certification, but I would encourage people to do that. But one thing I really liked, and I'm not here to necessarily plug the program, but you're going through your own financial healing process through the program, and
yeah. You have to
that's
do the
almost
reflections yourself. Yeah,
exactly that's worth the weight of worth the cost right there,
yeah,
um, but yeah, so I can go on all kind of rants about that all day, um, but yeah, I just wanted to just thank you for. I know you've got a little bit. We got a few minutes left, and so your website is couragetoheal.org,
hmm,
and so that's where people can find you.
yeah.
Are you on any kind of socials? Are you doing anything like that? Or are you kind
I'm trying. I
of
don't
okay?
know. I'm on TikTok and
Okay.
uh, uh, YouTube Shorts, and
Hmm.
you can find me under the financial social worker.
Nice. Okay, yeah. And I mean, like I said, social media is not necessarily my strong suit, but I see it as part of the macro thing of like,
Yeah,
we can reach more eyeballs and more ears
yeah,
by getting it out there as uncomfortable as it may be, but it's a good message and I feel like we should just be, trying to spread the gospel and try to heal as many people as possible through their
yeah,
finances or with their
yeah.
finances. So,
I totally
um
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
um, I think the more people, I think since financial social work is a relatively young specialty in
Mhm.
social work, I think it's really important for us to continue to share our experiences, but share with others like what we do and
Mm.
what our goals are, so they can also see, hey, like this is another form of social work to either aspire to be or to use as a resource, you know.
Mhm.
So
Mm. Well, we're out there fighting the good fight, and I just wanted to say thank you for your spending your time and like advocating for financial social work and doing what you do. I know you're on the ground, you're in the trenches, and you're doing the work. So I appreciate that, and I will highlight you and your efforts, and we can hopefully we'll be able to work together and collaborate again in the future, and
yeah.
just keep the conversation going.
Well, thank you so much, Joy, for having me. It's been a pleasure
Yeah,
to talk to you.
of course. Yeah. Well, of course, of course. All right. Well, I respect your time, and I know you got places to be. I've got a 4-year-old that's been banging on the door for a little while now, wanting to
I
play
got a
with dad. So
five-year-old. Yep.
the struggle is real.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Well, you
Well,
take
thank
care.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Constance. And that's going to be it for the Fire Social Workers Show. If you're interested in financial social work or you're a financial social worker, you want to be on the show, let me know. But until the next time, I will see you guys on the next stream.
Bye.
Bye.